All right, everybody. I think we're live here. I want to hit give it a shot and come back online. Say hello to everybody. Just want to let you guys know what's going on in the union. Give you a little update. Some stuff that I found out over the last couple of days. Just want to let you guys know I had a meeting with Paul Caperso. We sat down, cleared the air on a couple of things. We don't agree on everything, but we're trying to move forward. The election's done, and we'll see what happens in November. Like I said, I'm taking a break from everything right now. But I will tell you, I got a good group of friends of mine. They're running in the 212 local, the high-rise concrete local. You got executive delegate Pete Corrigan. You got for delegates Brian McLeod, Charles Kane, Jody Ann, Pat Smoker, and you got trial committee Mark Stewart, Paul McDowell, and Mielik. Sorry, guys. Mielik Nemeth. I think I said Nemeth. I think it's how you pronounce it. So, guys, these guys are running in the local. I think it doesn't take a lot to realize the concrete local is going through a lot of problems. I have a lot of my own thing. I even spoke with Paul about it. I don't think it's right that the apprentices can't sign you the lists. I think you put 30 apprentices into a local that has no work. They have two jobs within the 5 boroughs. They got more concrete work in the outer boroughs than they do in the inner boroughs, which is pretty bad. Tough times. We got to look out for all our brothers and sisters. That's our key thing. So anyway, with that being said, like usual, nothing shocks me in this industry. It's all about dirty politics in the union. Guys, it's never about the members. It's about getting over in the system. I witnessed it by first hand. I've been in this business a long time. Sammy Carboloso, which is Dave Carboloso's brother. He's the president of 212. He sent a letter out today, accusing Pete, saying he can't run for office, saying he's an owner or something, chairman or something for the construction company. It's not true. I know Pete and his family for many, many years. I know his dad. Believe it or not, my father were friends with Pete's grandfather, who was Pete Corrigan too, which is John Corrigan's dad. That's how far our families go back. Highly respectable people. They've been in the business for many, many generations. This is a tactic to just they're going after Pete. Pete was a business agent. People made accusations. There was a lot of crazy accusations made out there. Guys, understand? They got him out of there because he didn't play well with the big boys. They made him nervous, and that's why they came after him. You got guys on there that are dirty. We know it. We know guys that are putting guys out the back door to work. I mean, I could get on here and name a list of people, but I like to play fair. I don't like to point finger at people. I mean, I know guys that are down there. They were foremen for companies, and when they got laid off, they were still using a gas card. It ran up $1,500 in bills. And the only reason they got away with it is because they became a business agent. The contractor didn't want to deal with it. But dirty politics. You got guys down there who got sexually harassed women. They were thrown out. And multiple women, wasn't just one. And now they're still doing work with the union, which I think is disgusting. But I got some lawyers working on that now, and I think we're going to get to the bottom of it. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that end because, listen, they want to attack my friends. So you know what, guys? I roll up my sleeves and I get in the fight. So they want to come after Pete. You know what, guys? Good luck. I've been trying to get him back in the fight for a long time. So, thank you for doing my work for me. Yeah, I appreciate it, Sammy. I needed Pete back in the game. He's a young kid. I mean, he's not a kid anymore, right? He's got a young kid at home. He's got a wife. He's got responsibilities. Pete comes from an established family. I've heard stories. People make bullshit stories about, the kid took money, this and that. All nonsense, all lies. Guys, I'll be straight up and tell you. I rode in a car with Pete back in the day with Dave Carboloso. And Dave Carboloso like a deer in headlights. He had no idea what was going on in the industry. Not a clue. Not saying he knows much more right now, right? They got him on some projects, the Rise project, right? They put him on, he just regurgitates the same shit over and over and over again. That's how he fucking skates through it, right? He lied on his timesheets. I mean, let's just put it out what this guy's done, right? He spent more time chasing skirt down in that council than anyone I know. I mean, listen, if he's willing to fuck his wife over and his kids over and his family, listen, who are we, right? I mean, you expect us to get any better? That's how he treats his own family. So You know, this is a letter I'm reading today was emailed to him. So they're trying to box Pete up because Pete was helping a contractor while he was working as a foreman for them, trying to get work for the members and working deals out, trying to, work out facilitate everything between the trustees and trying to get this work locked in. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got 2 or 3 jobs locked in, but some of the other numbers just didn't work out. One big job was a job with the city. They lost it by 30-something million. I got to give the kid a lot of credit, man. He put a lot of effort into this, and he does this without even a thank you, right? He takes time away from his family, and he's a young son, his wife, and his dad's still in the game. His dad's retired, but his dad has a lot of heart in this business, But listen, they want to attack this kid. They want to come after him now because he wants to run for executive delegate. You know what the sad part is? You know what it is when you guys want to say to yourself? They don't want to go out in an election because they're afraid to lose. So they try dirty politics. That's what they go with, right? Pretty sad. But that's what we do in this world, right? Everything has got to be a backwards deal, But that's all right, right? Listen, we overcome. You push forward and you hope for the best. But I'm going to ask all my supporters out there, anyone in 212, and all my guys. You got friends, 212 guys. Let's step it up. Let's get the word out there. Pick up some emails, text messages. Let's get to our guys in 212, and let's get these guys elected. I mean, I call these guys the dream team in this local. We got to win this local back. Pete's a young guy. He's got another maybe 19, 18 years left in the industry. And that's what I've been looking for, right? I want a guy out there that's going to pick up the torch and run forward with this. Pete doesn't have a price. He's not being paid off. No one's buying him. He doesn't. He's not a guy chasing the wallet, man. He's more about dignity and respect. You're not buying him out. It ain't gonna happen. I can tell you that for a fact. I seen the kid in action. He if he had $20 in his pocket, he'd give you 15 of it. That's the way Pete operates. He's not looking for money. Pete doesn't. It's never been his cup of tea. He doesn't flash cash around or show off like that. It's never been his thing, man. He's a hard worker, and anyone I know that's known him, guy's always in work boots, and he'll first guy to put his tools on and jump in the game. He doesn't hold back. I've seen the kid work. He hustles, man. But we can't let this shit happen, guys. We gotta we have to realize that this is us that they're fighting against. And it's not Pete being attacked. It's all of us being attacked, right? It's democracy being attacked, and this is the thing. Like you want to get out of this game, but there's families out there that need us. They need us to step up, and I need more of you to step up. There'll be another election coming up in November. You know what? And I think things like this is making me want to run again. I got to tell you, we're 740 votes away. Not impossible. Lou Lorelli, Louis the Cash Lorelli, right? He worked with On Par. He knew everybody was getting paid cash, but whatever. He's Paulie's boy, so he got put there, right? Louis the boy. So they're all the same. You got Dennis Giblin, right? Dennis the Rat. He sat there with with Steve McGinnis. We know all about Stevie. Stevie McGinnis, right? Stevie McGinnis we know what he got jammed up for, right? But Dennis plays his games. He goes out there. Steve makes the snowballs and Dennis throws them. He plays the game, but Dennis has a reason. His wife's got a job down there, pretty much a no-show job, like an easy gig. He's putting people in the mentor program, gets a little kickback in that probably. But hey, listen, it's a game, right? They're just going to protect their own shit. They're not worried about you guys. They're all worried about themselves. I remember when he got kicked off the job for sabotage and stuff. He lied to Dennis Walsh about being at Saratoga when he was on the payroll for the farmer. A lot of other shit that guy was involved in, right? Guys that tell me stories where he's trying to get the whole crew to sneak off to go see Spider-Man. But, that's the game he plays, And he comes over and points fingers at me and calls me a thief, says I did stuff. Made up stories, bro. Thinks I'm friends with Patty O'Neill. Patty O'Neill's 18 years older than me. It doesn't make any sense. But, those are the games these guys play. Dirty politics. Pump guys up. Guys try to assault me outside a meeting. Whatever. It's all games, guys. You guys have to realize you're the ones that are going to suffer in this, right? Your benefits, your pension, your annuity, your vacation. I came right here on live, but I'm not afraid to talk to these guys. These guys don't scare me. Why do they scare you? People are nervous out there. I can't see my ballot. They're going to know who voted for me. You mail out 16,865 ballots and only 3,008 come back. That's why they win. That's why they're still in power. You wonder why they have it. It's not that they're better than anybody else. You got the guys, the millions in 926, the little, Andy Manji, little fucking, butt boys that are out there screaming and yelling their little shit out, But they're there because of, Marty Tuzo's son or son-in-law, right? He's a little punk. You see the kid, right? He looks like a transvestite to me. The kid. He doesn't even look like a man. He looks like a little transvestite. But I'm not knocking transvestite, but you look at a guy. He looks like he had sex change somewhere along the line. But this is the shit we deal with in this industry, right? We deal with garbage, bro. Garbage, right? And we got to push through the garbage to get the members to work now, right? We got to fight for our membership. It's disgusting. It's disgusting what we got to deal with, And it's a tough road out there, man. I met up with Paul. Paul's telling me there's a declaration that keeps the consent decree in place, but I haven't seen the declaration. I talked to my attorneys. They say he's full of shit. I'll give Paul the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think if there was a paper out there that said if the consent decree goes away, there's a declaration that's out there, which doesn't mean shit, right? It's just a play on words. I think it's something coming from Barbara Jones. She's twisting some words around, and they're going to sell it to the members, see if you guys can buy it. But we'll see what happens, right? I doubt it, right? Because that's the consent decree was there, right? I think they'll keep organized crime out. That's what it'll be about. But, as far as the one-man, one vote, and the benefits is to get merged up in Pittsburgh, that's what my connections for the International are telling me. That's what I'm hearing, guys. I'm hearing the 157 elections just get tossed out for the convention. We'll see what happens. Dennis Giblin was in the room. He sat there as an advisor. He's on the phone. I saw him there. I went to Dennis McCarvo. People questioned me on it. I went to Dennis McCarvo. He was a total gentleman, by the way. Told him what was going on. They said Dennis is there as an advisor. I had to make a big issue about it. I figured, you know what? I'll let it go. I don't really want to have words with Dennis because me and Dennis have words. It never goes in the right direction. It blows up, So I just let him be. So he sat there. He was on the phone talking. I had people call for the International. Everyone asked me questions. I was honest. I said, I don't see him do anything. I'm going to be honest between all years. He was at the back door of the election, so I don't really think he was there. But listen, is it an election violation? I don't know. I didn't at the day think it was a big deal. I went back outside on the street and stuck to my election duties, trying to talk to the members out on the street. It was a long day. It was cold out there. But, listen, I don't know. Does the election get tossed out? Who knows? Who cares at this point? Does it really matter? I mean, you go to the general convention. It's just a free party for those guys. The votes are already sealed and made. No one's gonna make a difference in that. The more I'm thinking about it, I might get on the plane now, fly out there. I might run for Eastern District Vice President, right? Give Joe a little roll for his money, right? Why not? The guy filed false charges against me, right? Lied on charge forms. They brought me up on charges. Outright lied. They even talked to the child chair guy, Santo. He's a fucking moron. I'll tell you, if you ever meet that guy, he's a moron. But yeah, he let false evidence in, like blank pieces of paper. They doctored the evidence. I mean, I could post it on. If you guys saw it, photoshopped. I mean, in the worst forms of Photoshop. I had former FBI agents and FBI agents look at the documents. They were like, "Are you kidding me?" I had Rich Green and Dave Burrows and Glenn McGordy. They all saw the videotape. There's no way that tape was secret recorded. We have videotape showing Paul and Tommy King and everyone talking to the videographer that the attorney paid to have there. Now, mind you, I didn't even know the meeting was going on. I found out at the last minute. I left work early, grabbed my lunch bag. If you guys look at the video, my actual lunch bag is sitting there. I didn't secret record or anything. What did I record? And the meeting was there for wage fraud. We were going after scaffolding industry and wage fraud. But, Joe was nervous because, we're cutting in on this kitty. We don't know what's going on there. I've had guys come straight up and tell me that, Carl Sancelli's taking cash. That's what they straight up told me. I'm not going to lie. That's what they're telling me. I don't know Carl Sancelli from a hole in the fucking wall. Don't know him. If you walked in front of me, I probably wouldn't even recognize the guy. But, you get 30, 40 guys telling you the same thing. It's kind of scary. You say to yourself, is it true? I don't know. I tell them to report it to law enforcement. Listen, if you're working on a scaffolding job, you think the guy's dirty, and a lot of you think he is, report it, guys. If you got a problem, call me. I'll make the move, bro. I'll give you the guys to talk to. I'll give you the guys in law enforcement you got to speak to. If the guy's dirty, let's get the guy fucking down there. Let's get him locked up. That's my opinion. He's stealing from me and you. I said we put the fucker in jail. That's what we do. The next cop, he'll do well in jail. But listen, guys, this is our local day. Like, where do we go with this? Where's all the guys that used to fight for what they believed in this industry? I don't know, right? We're in a tough spot now, right? They just bring you up on charges. I got guys being brought up on charges for saying things to people. It's ridiculous, dude, man. Come on, but whatever. You could write a charge against anybody. You could determine harassment, you can write a charge against. So if you feel like you've been triggered and you feel upset, bring someone up on charges. Spend some of the council's money. You know, what the fuck? Why not? Maybe you'll cut back on their pay raises down there. I think in the last pay raise after the 2%, Joe gave himself a $50,000 raise, and so did the rest of them down there. They gave themselves a raise after they got the assessment up to the 2%, locking themselves with some more money from the members because they knew the hours were going to be down. They had to find another way to tap into the cash recess, right? Disgusting, guys. You know, when you do the math and you look at what's going on out there, I mean, how does everyone sit back and just let this go? I don't know. You know? Will guys pick up will guys vote in the next election in November? Who knows? I don't know. Your house to get people to vote. What do you got to do? You got to, can't even get guys to go to union meetings anymore. They got to give away free shit and raffle tickets and just to get anyone to show up at a union meeting. Back in the day, you just showed up at a union meeting because that's where you had to go. I mean, I guess the BAs gave out jobs back then. They served the purpose. Now you see these guys, they look like nothing, man. You got a bunch of people in the building that couldn't keep themselves working in the industry. Yeah. Now they're going to if they can't find themselves jobs, how are they going to find you a job? Scary. But listen, like I said to guys, you know what? We'll keep pushing forward, Hopefully people get pissed off. I want people to get pissed off. I want people to think about it. I want you to think about it when you don't have your benefits for your medical or your vacation check is half what it was last year. Because that's what you need to do. I want you to get mad. I want you to get pissed off and think about it, Get mad at me, whatever. I don't care, whatever it takes, But, when those ballots come in the mail, step up to the plate. Put your name in the ring. Run for office. You got a lot of tough guys out there running their mouth, but you don't see them running for office. You got guys like Lou Larelli, right? He rolled around on his knee pads his whole career, but he never did anything to do anything for anybody, right? Sucking ass isn't a job description, is it? I guess it is, right? When you work at the council, sucking ass is a job description. Fucked up, right? That's weird in an industry where sucking ass is a job description. Fucked up, man. I hate to say it, and everyone a couple years don't want to hear it, but I'll tell you, I don't know, man. Where's the warriors in the council? Where are the guys out fighting for the jurisdiction and getting the work back? Looks like a great place if you want to get a fucking blowjob, right? I guess it's Dave Caraballosa, right? That's what you want to do. Like, that's what it is. Everyone's kissing each other's ass. Nobody wants to get down and dirty and call each other what they are. They know who the hat racks are in that building, but nobody does nothing. We just let it all sit there. Meanwhile, those people are responsible for thousands and thousands of members and their families, but we sit back and just let it play out. For what? Like, what is this union becoming? You think about it. We're an embarrassment when you think about it. Boston's doing better than us. All these other areas are doing better than us. We can't even keep a fucking jurisdiction together. It's disgusting, guys. Now they're going after Pete. They want Pete out of the ring because they can't beat him in a vote, right? If they had balls, put it to the street. Let them fucking vote. Let the members make that choice, But now that's too hard. Everybody working involved, right? The members would have a choice. We don't want that. We want to play games and try to get him out, right? Just like when they boxed him out, they try to say he was putting apprentices to work. Why didn't they charge him? They never charged him. They threw him out. It was actually a stupid move. They really didn't need a reason to get him fired. But they just, whatever, they throw something together, make an accusation. That's all you need, just make an accusation. Because they got a different set of rules, You got guys like all you city carpenters out there, right? You got guys with DCAS, Tommy Molly, right? That's Bill Lacey's brother-in-law, right? Bill, how you doing, Bill? Hope you're watching this. So Bill Lacey's brother-in-law has a job, and he was hired with the city with DCAS as a laborer. He took the test a few times, but failed every one of them. And then they made him a supervisor. Anyone who knows civil service rules, you're supposed to be a civil service carpenter for a year before you become a supervisor. Somehow, somebody pulls strings like that. There's several other people with the city like that. But it's Bill Lacey's brother-in-law, Leiden covers for him, and that position's sitting there. And he's in charge of ceremonies with DCAS, which is fucked up, guys. These people are members that took tests to be on that application to have that job. But now they don't get the job because it's being covered over on, right? So all you men and women out there that are on that civil service test, you ask yourself, why is that guy there? Why does he have, what strings are they pulling to keep him there, right? I know a guy, Mark, not Tuzo, what was his name? Mark, can't think of the last name. Anyway, he was a civil service carpenter. He got pushed out when he was a provisional because Martin Leiden's name came up on the list, and they had to get Martin Leiden in there. But now Leiden's in there, and Leiden's not doing his fucking job to make sure that guys are being replaced and put in there, right? Because it's all a boys club, guys. They all got their own little setup. right? But that's the game they want to play. But you know what? I think we're going to get an attorney and crack down on that. Maybe file a lawsuit, right? Maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe we got to hit him in the pocket. Maybe that's what's got to be done. I don't want to bring that up. I don't want to make a big issue about it. But I think this stuff needs to come to light. I think members need to know that they're getting screwed over. You guys are sitting down taking tests and playing by the rules and doing what you need to do to get ahead in life, and then backdooring people in, right? Just like the lawsuit at the school, right? Supposedly they came in there, they took one of the laptops. But you guys ever worry about that? They came in there, everybody put their name in a basket trying to get in, and meanwhile they backdoored everybody, right? Another thing, of course, is probably going to cost us millions of dollars. They're probably going to have to get a monitor for the school now, right? Who ends up paying? We do, right? They're dirty games, what we pay. Right? So all I can say to you guys is, listen, you got a good guy out there. You got a great team. You guys would all be lucky to have a guy like Pete as your executive delegate. You need young guys like Ken to show you how to get it done, how to go after this work. I've seen him in action. I've seen him call developers. I've seen developers call him. I've seen contractors call him. I've seen him wheeling and dealing. The kid's brilliant. Brilliant when it comes to it, how to make it all happen. There's not a guy in that building that can do what he does. Not a guy in the building. We'd be lucky to have him. I think we need him. Straight up, we need him in this industry. He can make the difference. That's what's going to get us back to work. That's what's going to get us in the room with these contractors and developers, and start getting negotiation deals down. And we got to get these GCs back on play sort of too. We lost a lot of ground with these GCs, which is causing us a lot of work to go the opposite way. But hey, listen, like I said, guys, I can get up here and tell you what you need to hear. You can believe me or not believe me. You can believe the guys that are out there to sell you on something because they benefit on the broken system, and you want to believe them, you're going to believe them. Listen, I just tell you like it is. So that's all I could do for you, right? I do my best. I don't. I can walk away whenever I want in this industry. That's why there's really not much they can do to me, and they all know it too. Shit, if they throw me out of the union tomorrow, I'll have a job seconds later like that. It doesn't matter. Within seconds, it doesn't matter. Within literally seconds, I just make a call. I have a job with somebody else. It's been like that my whole career. I never had to worry about being out of work, anything like that. I worked as a steward because I knew it was the right thing to do to help guys out, but got a lot of connections. People offer me super jobs and stuff like that. I'm actually looking at something right now for doing the cabin installations and locker room stuff like that for state and government jobs within the New York and Connecticut and tri-state area. So who knows? Maybe I'll just box out of this and start my own company. Maybe I will start my own company. Find out where the money is. Well, listen, I just wanted to give you guys a little update on everything. Make sure everyone that's on here that hears me to 212 Carpenter. I cannot tell you how important it is. Let's see if we can get the date here on when the ballots have to be back. Ballots are in the mail May 15th. Must be returned by June 6th in 212. So you guys really need to step up your game. This is important. And I got great results out of 212 in my election. So my gut tells me that you guys are on the right path. And I think you guys know the situation you're looking at. There's no concrete work out there. I'm helping a lot of you guys find work, doing protection work, putting you in places at the airport. But I can't put everyone to work everywhere, guys, And that's why I'm an advocate. We got to let these apprentices, if they still work from the high rise, we got to let them We got to let them sign the other list. We can't let these kids starve, and let them learn part of being what it's a carpenter, learn all the trades like I did when I was a kid. I got to do concrete, drywall framing, woodwork, ceilings. Made me a rounded carpenter. Why would we take that away from these kids? Why would our leadership not want to do that and build a stronger base? We're losing these kids. We're losing our members. We're down to 16,000 and change in membership, which is scary for me because if this work ever does slingshot back, we're going to have a hard time filling our ranks and file trying to get people to work. But all right, guys, listen. If you guys need me, want to get in touch with me. Let's show Pete and his team some support and get these guys elected in 212. Let's get a good executive delegate in that room. So when we're talking about consent decrees and mergers and stipulation and orders and declarations or whatever the fuck they want to call it, and they want to backdoor us, at least we got a bright guy in the room like Pete, college educated, you get a political science degree, smart kid. Let's have a guy like him in the room. Let's have someone representing us that's not going to buy the bullshit. It's going to ask the questions. That's not afraid to ask the questions. You got a guy in the room that's not afraid, and that's what we need. We need someone who's going to sit in the room and not be afraid to fucking, just like my two running mates, like Dougie O'Grady and Charles. Charles was also, man. These guys didn't back down. They weren't afraid to ask the question. So let's get someone like Pete. Let's get him in that room with Executive Delegate. Let's all work together. Let's make those calls. Every time you see a guy with a 212 sticker, you're walking up the block, you see him on the train. Let's get him in. Let's let him to know to get those ballots back in the mail and vote for vote the top line and build it back, local 212, and let's get those guys in office. All right. Anyone need me? You know how to find me. Have a good night, guys.